Welcome to What Are You Even Talking About? The podcast where we talk a little bit about everything. I am your host, the Nomothete. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to What Are You Even Talking About? The podcast where we talk a little bit about everything. Today's guest is Dr. Patricia Petralba. She is the founder of Thrive Life Center and Integrative Medicine Wellness in Tucson, Arizona, and the head coach of Revive and Thrive program. She is passionate about sharing her knowledge that transforms lives in a holistic and sustainable way so that highly ambitious women can perform without the burnout and feel fulfilled in all areas of their life. She wishes to create a space for minority leaders to have a voice in the conversation of the healing arts and entrepreneurship. She is proud to be a pioneering Filipina trained in integrative medicine, specialty, and hypnobirthing. She has a special interest in mind body medicine, stress reduction, acupuncture, women's health, and energy healing. Thank you for being a guest today.
Yes, I'm excited to have this conversation with you, Mark. And I see you're also into art therapy, a life coach. So I'm excited.
Yes, I've been doing it for only 2 years now,
Mm.
um, but I love it. Like it's art therapy saved my life,
Mhm.
and I just had to get into it. And wanted to help other people, so we're definitely in a lot of the same fields of study. Um, so the first question I have is at the end of every show, I ask the guest to pick a question for the next guest. So they get to pick whatever they want
Yes.
without knowing who the guest is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a
So
fun one.
yeah, this is great. Um, the question you got is, what is your happy place?
So many. That's a good question. I have so many happy places. I feel like any place that I don't need to look up to see the clouds and the sky with water. So basically on the beach.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, basically on the beach. I grew up in the Philippines, and so we have one of the best, if not the best, beaches in the world. So, yeah. Mhm.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Okay, so next question. How can we use indigenous medicine in our daily lives?
Yes, yes. I love that question because I feel like indigenous, even the word, and I apologize, my office is right in front of a main road and it's been a bit noisy. But indigenous, even the word indigenous, a lot of people don't connect with it anymore, right? Like it feels sometimes not modern or not uh, like a daily word that you hear. But indigenous medicine is close to my heart because it reminds us that we are from Earth, that we are natural beings. And so indigenous medicine to me is really kind of connecting to the source, connecting to us being indigenous. We are all from Earth. And the way I encourage people practicing that, because we tend to be removed from our natural spaces. So that's a good question that you asked first, was happy place. So environment. The environment that we're in is mostly artificial now, except if you're a farmer, I don't know, like an engineer, construction, like you're outside.
Yeah.
But most of us are artificial air, artificial light, artificial ground. And for us to feel that we are from here, we need to connect to the elements, the five elements, the fire, the water, the earth, the air, no? So that's a very like pragmatic way, I think, to feel we are here. We're indigenous. Yeah.
Understand. I try to make it a point in my life to go outside at least once a day,
Yes.
walk around and just get in touch with nature because it really does have a healing effect on
Yes.
the body.
Yep.
And like I didn't realize that a few years ago. I stayed inside. Like I didn't go outside for much. I didn't have any use for it. I just never went outside,
Right.
and I was sick. I stayed sick a lot,
Mhm.
and I just never knew why. And started drinking a lot more water and going outside more and just being a part of nature. It helped tremendously in my life and made me feel so much better. Like I have to go outside, like I said, at least once a day now. And it has just changed a lot in my life.
Yes.
And it's great.
Right.
Um, so next question. Why is pleasure a recipe for performance?
Ooh. I feel like, especially, the corporate life, right, which is majority of who I see is very productivity oriented. We, or we need to feel like we've checked a box to feel like we're successful. And so from a nervous system or a chemistry wise, that's very dopaminergic. So dopamine is like that hormone that we get or we produce when we're doing things. No? So contrast to productivity and dopaminergic, pleasure hormones is oxytocin. So pleasure is like that surrender, that like affirmation that, oh, that giving yourself a break without guilt, without feeling like we need to be doing something else,
That's
kind of
that's
that
hard.
celebration, that harvest. After the peak of summer, it's now fall season. Can we not celebrate the harvest? So, pleasure, when we take pleasure in our harvest, we increase oxytocin. And when we increase oxytocin, it's a very anti-inflammatory hormone. So all the aches, all the pains, all the stress hormones gets more regulated.
Okay.
So we need to have that balance of productivity and pleasure.
Huh.
We get so lost in productivity. We are also pleasure beings. I mean, why did we have a nervous system? We don't, it's not just wired to sense pain, it's also wired to sense pleasure.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Like, I spend a lot of time, like, if I'm not doing something, I literally just forget. Like, I'll be like, I'll just shame myself all the time about me not doing something. And
Yeah.
I'll be like, I should be doing something. I'm like, dude, you've been working for like 8 hours straight and you haven't had a break. And like, it's okay to have a break. It's
Yep.
okay to feel that. And it's like it's really hard for me to do that. Like I've noticed in my life, like it's just terrible. Like I'll get anxiety because I'm worried about not doing something.
Right, right.
Like
And
it's just
I teach this, but I'm also a student of this. So I completely relate to you and most likely to those who are listening to you that it can be hard to convince yourself it's okay not to do anything because we're just so wired. I mean, like money is an exchange of an effort, and then school grades equals effort. So we have perpetuated this reward system of the dopaminergic and the doing, when we are human beings, we're not human doing. And
true.
so the human plight, we need that kind of unproductivity to create, no, the undoing. Like you're an artist, right?
Yeah,
That undoing, the stillness helps us also get clarity.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like I know when I'm wanting to draw and or wanting to play the piano and I'm trying to force it, like it just doesn't happen.
Yes.
I'll sit there and try to draw something really bad, and the picture just won't come out right. And I'll be like, fine. And I'll just stop and I'll just be mad and I'll just be stomping around. And everybody's like, you need to calm down and just kind of chill a minute.
Yeah.
Just go walking, or
Yeah.
just something calm. And I found that's usually when I have my moments of inspiration, and that's when I have my best ideas, when I'm calm and just walking.
Exactly.
And I'm not thinking about anything. I'm not worried about anything. My anxiety level's not high. I just be. I just be.
Uh,
And it is the time when my creativity is at its best.
yes.
That's when I can draw something fully and it look just like I wanted it to and be happy about it. But if I'm trying to do something, it just does not work.
Right.
Like it's amazing. Like it's so amazing that you can, when you don't want to do stuff, it's the better time to do things than when you want to do it and you're trying to push forth that effort, that the effort that you can't change.
Exactly.
And you're pushing it so hard and you don't get the fruits of the labor like you would if you would just calm down and do it.
Right. I love it. I
Like,
love that example. It's that push and pull. When you push too much, there's no pull energy for you to receive. So pull energy is lean back. Pull energy is the feminine energy. There's a feminine and a masculine energy. It's not biology, but the feminine is lean back, settle down. The masculine energy is push and doing. So we have judged the pull and the pause energy, that it's like it doesn't give value, when in fact that is the space where we can like leap from. Like if we just convince ourselves that, you know what, yeah, the not pushing too much gives me the nourishment to push further. It's like that dynamic of push and pull.
yeah. And it's just amazing how you don't realize it when you're doing it. Like, it's become so conditioned that you do it automatically and you don't even realize it. Like, you
Yes.
just have no idea that you're trying to force something, and that's not the way to go about it. Like, we just don't, it doesn't connect for us
Yes.
usually. I know it doesn't connect for me most times, and I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
But it amazes me every time when I just take my time and I'm not worried about time.
Yeah.
That is when better things happen. And I think, a lot of people could use that if they could get their mind to the mindset to take time, be patient. Like, and this is stuff that we've heard all our lives coming from a myriad of different sources. Like, we have religious and spiritual sources that say, take your time. God's time is not like your time. And like, we are so rushed and we don't understand that to take time is putting forth the effort
Yes.
into getting the things that you want,
Yeah.
because you took the time to do that. It takes time to build anything. And we always try to rush it. We're the rushing force
Right.
in the universe. Like, we're the ones trying to do everything in a certain amount of time when
Yeah.
it needs to be happening, and all needs to happen now. And nothing in the universe works like that. Like,
Right.
if you look at how planets were made or how star systems came to be, over time it became that. It didn't start out that.
Right.
One small rock flying through space collected other rocks, and then that formed into a bigger piece. And then over time, my quote is, everything snowballs.
Mhm.
And that means, like, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, it'll snowball. Excuse
Yes.
me. Ooh, sorry.
Bless you.
Uh, but everything snowballs no matter positive or negative. If you're doing positive things, it'll snowball into more positive things. If you're doing negative things, it'll snowball into, more negative things. And it took time. Like, what creates who you are, I think, is the fact that over time, what we do, and everything becomes a part of us from those things. And in culmination, that's who we are,
Right.
because those are that we took and made a part of us in order to go forward into the being that we'll become.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that we don't look at it like that more often.
Right.
But
Right.
it takes calming down and being patient to take the time to be calm and be patient.
Yeah.
And like it's hard for a lot of people I know out there.
Right.
Um, and it's just they can't fathom not doing.
Yes. And time, we keep saying this operative word time, no? To take the time. And in many ways, time is relative. Like
Yeah.
how some moments feel so long, some moments feel so fast. And you know why people get impatient into your evolution, into our evolution, like, I want to manifest this thing and I want to become this thing and go up this corporate ladder. Because the time, how they spend their time is only in the pushing. But again, back to pleasure, if you are balanced enough with the pull energy, why will you become impatient when you're in pleasure mode during pull time? And actually investing your time in the pull energy and the boredom, the undoing, the unproductivity without shame or guilt will be your recipe for quantum leaping and collapsing time. Like what you
Yeah.
said, the moment you let go and not push and spend time to squeezing the artistic side of you, when the moment you pull, that's when it comes in.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And it's like we accomplish everything in our reality. Like, we are a part of everything that's made in the universe. So if we look into space, and like I said, if you see a rock moving through space, it's not forcing itself to move. It's just being led to wherever it's going to land. Whatever gets in its way is going to collide with it and it's going to keep going. And it doesn't think about time. It doesn't think about the end of where it's going to end up. It just moves through space. And it's happy that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost
It's just,
effort, right?
yeah, like it doesn't have to do anything. If it's going to become a planet, it'll become a planet when it's supposed to.
Yes.
And if it's supposed to land on a planet, it'll land on a planet when it's supposed to. Nothing it does is going to change the course of where it's going. And we should look at it more like that.
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot to do nothing.
Yes.
But we're the only thing in the universe that pushes back. Like we are the only thing that tries to force anything. And we don't understand why it doesn't work. It's like because literally your reality is telling you to relax and go with whatever's going. And we always push against that. And like it just does not work for us. And we haven't figured out yet that that's probably not the best way to handle things. And
Right.
to just be patient and just to let go and be.
Yes. Yes. And
Because
I think what I'm hearing too, and what comes to mind as you're saying about the planets, they just become what they're meant to become, is alignment. No,
yeah,
it's like, how in tune are you with your efforts and what you're trying to create? Because it will feel there's a lot of resistance into creating your path, whether that's the family, the partner, the baby, the business. If it's, you can do 10,000 mal-aligned efforts because that's how you're wired. You need to keep doing, versus 3 aligned efforts into what is really like what you're meant to do. That will create it faster if it's in alignment, right? Um,
yeah, and you'll
so that's the discernment, no? Like, is this an aligned effort or am I pushing too much?
Yeah, and I mean, I've dealt with that a lot, especially in the last few years, because I changed fields. I was an entertainer and an actor and a musician, and I went into life coaching. And it took a lot of study. It took me finding out things on my own, and I every day I studied something. I didn't care what it was. I studied something that would help me be the life coach I'd want for me. And I built on that and built on that and built on that. And now I'm looking back, it's been 2 years, and I'm like, huh, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even hard to learn it.
Yes.
And like, which got me back into school so I could get my degree in psychology. Like, it's just, I could see the efforts, the worthwhile effort that I put in into things that I knew I wanted, and how fast it got me to where I wanted to be when put my time into the right effort.
Yes.
Like, it was like I could spend half my day not doing something, but I was like, well, in that time I was thinking about everything I needed to do and making lists in my head about the things I had to do next. And we have to also make sure we don't go too far with that,
Yeah.
because then that'll keep you from doing something too. And I'd be like, well, but I also made sure this person was paid. I also got some work in on a certification I know I'm going to need, and then I also applied to school. And I'm like, that's three good things I didn't do yesterday. Great. Like, I'm ahead of for tomorrow. Like, and it just made me a lot happier. And I was like, oh, I just achieved a goal. Oh,
Yeah.
that feels nice.
Yeah.
That feels real nice. And it made me want to continue
Wow.
to reach more goals. Like,
Yeah.
and it snowballed into something better because I gave it the time it needed, but not rushed it.
Yeah.
Like, and that was my biggest thing, was like, my ex would be, she would tell me to calm down because I would get so upset and so mad about not getting something done or not being able to do something right because technology doesn't work for me well. And like, it's just these small things that were just eating me up inside, and I just get so angry. And she's like, your heart's gonna explode, is what's gonna happen. She's like, you're so upset over this thing when it doesn't really matter in the expanse of everything. And I'd
Yes.
be like, I understand that, but I'm still angry. And it was like how my mindset was set was because for so long I was a person who wanted things right now. And I did things to put that into effect. So I didn't realize things were just going to work out in the time they were going to work out, and that my effort wasn't the thing that put it there. It was going to happen that way either way.
Yes.
And I'd be like, okay, so where can I focus my time for the right things? Like the things I know I can control in the situation, and not be worried about doing something all the time. Because that was like, I was losing sleep. I couldn't eat some days just because I was always so worried about doing something and having to do something that I
Yes.
couldn't do anything. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing that we don't realize, is that in pushing stuff usually makes us not do the thing. Like when
Right.
we're trying, like we're just pushing it harder than we're supposed to, and that's when things go wrong. That's when it doesn't happen. That's when we're stressed out for no reason. And we tend to veer that way. And I don't know why that is in people. Like, it's just something with all humans that I guess we feel like we're batteries. And, a
We are.
battery's always, I
We are
mean, yeah,
electromagnetic, we
yeah,
are
like it's just a battery.
yeah.
Always, the energy that comes from that is always moving,
Yes.
because that's what we do throughout life. And we're constantly on the move. So when we have to stop, we have to deal with that stop. And dealing with the stop is like, oh, everything that I haven't been paying attention to can now affect me. And everything that's in my world can now be up front, and it becomes overwhelming, but people don't know how to stop it. Like, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people to not do.
Yes.
Like those words
Because
don't even compute.
yeah, I feel like, what you're painting a picture is that programming, right? Like that habit that is hard to break. We take more comfort in the doing, and whatever stops us from constantly moving, like you were saying, the technical difficulties, no, you get impatient because you can't move as fast as you wanted it, no, that frustration of the roadblocks, and kind of that when there's nothing left to do, it's very uncomfortable for a lot of people to confront what is, because when we're not so busy, when things are actually allowed or nothing is getting in the way to settle down, we really need to confront, how are you doing? How are you being? How
Yeah.
are you feeling? And so that's when kind of the integrative medicine and the life coaching and all these modalities can help you take it all in, because it can be overwhelming when you're confronted of what is, because doing in many ways is a distraction. The speed and stillness is a very good insight. You're in it. Doing is like very dynamic, right? Like you're pushing towards future foresight.
Yeah.
I hope that I made sense. I connected
Yeah.
what you shared.
I definitely understand that. Like we're the battery, and
Yes.
even a battery has to rest, like
And
to keep
recharge.
going. Yeah, you have to recharge because you can drain yourself. And it's like, a lot of us have been, like I said, it always goes back to conditioning that we're taught that. And it's because that's how humanity had to survive for thousands of years. Like we had to move. And now we're at a place in with society that we don't have to be as worried about something attacking us. And that's we came from having to run from everything. Like we had to, every animal could kill us in so many words, and we had to keep moving. And that helped for so many years. But now we're in places where we have homes and we can settle down, and we're not always on the run from something that we don't know how to handle it. Like and we're now there are studies and modalities to help with that. I mean, they've been around for thousands of years, but I think they were hard to that people to understand them, was because they're so used to being in survival mode.
Yes. And so it's
And
so hard to turn off the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, freeze,
yes,
because regardless if it's a saber-toothed tiger or your mortgage, the brain interprets it as a threat if you don't know how to regulate to parasympathetic, which is pleasure, life is good, I am safe. And so that's where I think the skill of being a regulated human, that you can still fight, flight, and freeze when needed, but you can also turn on life is good, I am safe, and I can enjoy it.
that was a big one for me.
Yeah.
Like that was most of my life, and it feels better now. I still sometimes don't know what to do with happiness. Like I'll just be like, "What is this?" Like, and just kind of be like, "I don't know how I feel, but I know I feel really good, and I shouldn't feel good." So I don't know what to do. And it's like I love the conversations I have in my head with myself about dealing with random bouts of happiness. And it was like I never thought I'd have to be a a person that would not understand happiness like I should, but for many years I didn't, and I didn't realize that I was a very angry person, and it took calming down and spending time with myself and just myself in quiet,
Yes.
and like it changed my whole mindset.
Yeah.
And I was like, I knew I could tell when people were messing with me at that point. I understood when people were bothering me or messing with me. I understood how my reactions would help them, do something. And it made me not want that. And so I took a lot of time
Yes.
and just got through it
Yes.
and knew that it had nothing to do with me. And
Right.
like I said, I studied and I studied and I studied, and it all came back to, and I was like, well, we've known this from the beginning. This
Mm.
is like part of the manual that we're given through spirituality and religion is to take time and be patient, and God will do it when he's supposed to. Like, and these are things that, were taught to us too, but the way our society is, we pushed everything toward, like you said, doing. And we stepped away from, a lot of people moved away from more of the spiritual and the integrative medicines. And like, just because they wanted to succeed and build this empire. And it's like, but what happens when all that's gone? You're still
Mm.
left with you. No matter
Right.
what's going on in your life, it's still you having to experience everything.
Yes.
And like we were talking, it's overwhelming to a lot of people.
Right.
And I'm glad we're finally getting better with dealing with it. Like I think, because I know, like talking to my grandmother, I was saying this in another interview that things that were okay when she was young may not be okay now, and how it dealt with our making up, and it's so different. And now we know that most people deal with trauma, and most people need an effective way to deal with that trauma and to have the lives they should have, that we should all be able to have. And it makes it so much, I'm not going to say better, it's so different now than even when I was growing up. And like, we didn't talk about healing, even though we went to church every Sunday, we didn't talk about healing the body, and we didn't really talk about healing the inner child, and we didn't discuss things like that. So for the longest time, I didn't even know that was out there.
Yes.
And from what my perspective was at that age, with the knowledge I had, I worked with what I had to get to where I'm at, but
Right.
it still was hard. It was just really hard. And
Yes.
I feel so much better now that I can relax. And it's still an ongoing issue, but I have a better grasp of it now than I did 5 years ago. And it's helped me get into a place where I feel like I can maybe help others and get knowledge out there to help others.
Yes.
Like, it's just, once again, it goes back to the snowball effect. I'm trying to do positive things and hopefully get some positive things out of it. And so for others to be able to get what they need out of it.
Right. Right. Right.
But
And
it's the
I
same
love
time.
what you said about, healing was not available or not as kind of pop culture, or the information is not as broadcasted. And, I 100% agree that actually now the information in many ways is overwhelming, because the information is everywhere with the, blessing of internet, so we are now beyond the age of information. The
Yeah.
information is here, so we cannot excuse ourselves or we cannot be in that victim, like, well, it wasn't available. It's available. It is up to us to receive or to even change your sight, change your view. What are you looking at? What are you consuming? Who are you in front with? And now it's the age of, after knowing, no, I get a lot of intelligent, very well-read people, very, very well, they're so into holistic healing that sometimes they even know more research than I do. But for your listeners there out there too, that we are beyond age of information. We are in the age of embodiment. We need to embody the knowledge,
Yep.
because knowing is not enough. Knowing without practicing, okay, you're now self-aware, you get that feelings of anger. What are the tools? Okay, you know the tools of X, Y, and Z. Then you need to embody it. Because just knowing it and not like practicing, like kind of practicing your tennis serve or your basketball form, means nothing if you're just reading books about basketball and tennis,
Yeah.
um so yeah, I think like embodying it, which is what I think what you're doing, right? This evolution of, you're completely a different person 2 years, 5 years ago, because you have embodied the things that you were reading. You are not just reading it.
Yeah, because you can only go so far with just
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and it's something that we have to also realize that this is a consistent thing. Like, it doesn't go away. Like, so we have to work on it. We can't just work on it one day and then be like, okay, I'm done. It should be
Oh,
better now.
it's not.
And like a lot of people do that. Like, and they'll be like, one day I'm good now. And I'm like, no, this is every day. This will be repeated. This is something you have to work towards every single day, because everything is gonna, like, everything can be different at any given time, at any given point. So you have to be ready with the knowledge that you have to be able to use it so it's effective. Like, and a lot of people don't. And it's just odd. Like, you would think they would, but they just don't. And then they don't understand why they're not getting the fruits of their labor. Like, I can read all day, like we were saying, I can, read a book about gardening all day. If I don't go outside and plant the seed, I'm not gonna get any fruit. I'm just not, like, all day. And then I would be mad that I wasn't getting any fruit. Like, that's how a lot of people take it nowadays. Like, and you're like, no, you have to go out and get in the soil and water the plant and make sure the plant has the right amount of sun. You have to clip the, you know, blades of the plant when you want it to grow bigger. And like, it's just so much work. And we have to do the work every day. Like, and that's a thing I always try to tell people. I'm like, this is an everyday thing. You don't get a break from it. You can take breaks, but it's still gonna be there. Like, it's gonna be there. So you have to do it. If you don't, you're just not gonna be in a place to be happy. But that's your choice at that point. And that's another thing people fail to think about is choice. Um, and with those choices, you try to make the best ones you can, like, and stop living in survival, because survival doesn't always get you the best type of life. And I know that from experience. Like, it's survival doesn't, survival mode keeps you alive, but it doesn't let you live. Like, and that's something that we all need to think about. Okay, how can highly driven women or entrepreneurs or even someone still at their 9 to 5 prevent burnout?
Everything is connected, no? From the first question of happy place. So I guess you need to put yourself in an environment
Yeah.
that keeps you burning or contributes to your candle. They're your wax, right? So you don't literally burn out. Like, who can nourish you? So spaces, places, and people. And then we talked about the push and pull, time and energy management. But the most pragmatic, and I think it's a good take home for everyone who's listening, there's a 90-20 minute rule. 90 minutes of productivity. Beyond that, what the research have shown is you're literally just squeezing it out from you, from
Mm.
efficiency, creativity, um, all the top shelf performance that you can give. Beyond 90 minutes, it's going to go down. When you're at 90 minutes, that's when you do the pull energy. 15, you start, if you're not so used to pleasure mode and pulling, 5 minutes, then 10, then 20. To doing the things that nourishes you and makes you feel like you're having pleasure, activating the oxytocin, maybe having a self-massage, maybe stretching. And that is the sweet recipe, 90-20 minute rule. And you can look at it like, imagine a child. You tell them, oh, you have to go to school 9 to 5, and your only break is on lunch break. Do you expect the child to really perform and take it all in? Of course not. They really need to move, right? For a child, it's actually 45 minutes. Beyond 1 hour, they're just like daydreaming and like, oh my gosh, I can't take in this lesson anymore. For an adult, most adults can go up to an hour and a half. But if your child at heart, 45 minutes, then take a break. 45 minutes and take a break. So it's that pause, play, pause, play, pause, play. And it's like our IRA or your 401, it's going to be a compounding effect to the outcome that you want. So I guess that's the simple recipe that I have to prevent burnout. Find the people, find the place that is going to add wax to your candle, and then time and energy management with 90-20 minute rule, which I live by. And it
I
has,
definitely watch through it.
yeah, really, it's been a game changer. I mean, a lot of doctors are burnt out. We are one of the highest suicide rate in any profession. And
Yeah.
I've, when I used to work in the big clinic, I'm the only doctor who's taking a lunch break.
And nobody can live like that.
Yeah. They are just like in their computers finishing their notes. And I get it. We are overwhelmed. But at the same time, not bridging the connection of, well, if you don't take your lunch break, don't take a pause, you're just gonna have your efficiency suffer more and more. And your decision making, will also suffer. So yeah, that's my simple recipe.
I was in a class, matter of fact, last month, and it was about, or one of the ladies' topics was about doctors and medical professionals being able to take breaks and deal with their trauma and deal with a lot of the things they don't get to deal with because they're helping everybody else. And I think it's a something that most people don't think about is the welfare of our medical staffs, because they don't ever get the time to deal with all the things they see, all the things they have to deal with as far as the body, and dealing with disease. Like, they have so much they deal with. It's almost like they've gone to war. Like, it's very
Oh, it's
similar to,
tourism. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
like,
life or death every day.
yeah,
When I'm in the ICU, and this is where I like extrapolate the time is relative, because in the ICU, when I was doing ICU work, it feels like time is so fast. So I need to convince my subconscious and conscious mind that I have time. Even though there's really minimal time, but I create time in my consciousness and in my belief, and therefore I have time. I have time to make to go to the restroom, like that bodily needs, because so many doctors don't poop and pee because they feel they don't eat. But I have time to create those moments to honor my body and still finish early, and still, so anyway, yeah, uh, and those micro traumas, and I feel like during my time in corporate medicine, I needed to, basically my life was just work. I go home, I deal with the trauma with yoga, journaling, meditation, cook. That's it. It was clockwork. It, because I really needed to be on top of it so I don't burn out. But now I decided that system is really disease management system. It's not a healthcare system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
I know it's something that is just prevalent nowadays is to be overworked. And we have to get out of that mindset. Like things go better, people learn more, and therefore later be able to do more if they take the time. Like we've been saying this whole, conversation. It literally goes back to being able to take time for oneself in order to be better for everybody else.
Yes.
Like it's just something we have to learn. And it's something that's just going to get worse over time if we don't put the work in for it.
Right.
And I think we're finally getting to a place where people are seeing the damage it's done and working toward fixing that because everyone deserves the same quality of life. And we're not getting that. And most people think about third world countries and places where, life is hectic all the time, but that also happens in a corporate world. That also happens in our world, just different than how it may happen somewhere else. It's just how trauma is trauma. And we have to deal with that trauma the best way we can. And that's usually in taking time for ourselves.
Yes. Yes. And
Like it's just,
coming from a third world country, growing up, and I visit every year, sometimes even twice a year. And I feel like it's honestly a really good blessing growing up in a third world country, because in many ways it explains why we're third world, because the value of productivity is not that high in many ways. We are so, like, very, like, socializing and being with family and celebrating has higher value than working.
yeah,
So I when and it drives me crazy when I do some business back home, because the efficiency is just um, but at the same time, I don't want to be colonial, no, and impose on my American values to them, because um that's what keeps them going. That's why we don't see a lot of burnout with them. But at the same time, monetary wise, GDP wise, we're not the best, but they know a part of being human in many ways better than first world.
yeah,
No? And it's not how much money they make, it's really how they live. It's like the happiness index is really high there too.
yeah,
So that's what I appreciate also, living and being raised there. Like, so that's why I feel like that's part of me being an integrative medicine doctor. I get to have that both worlds, no? I live that embodiment of, we don't need to work hard all the time. Life is not all about work. And so I had that blessing. So
I agree. That's the same thing like living in a rural area in the United
yes,
States. I live in the South and we're out in fields. And, and so it's like, people are calmer here and they seem to be happier here when they're just driving or, they're just walking down the road and, going to see family. And it's different. And, also being raised with not a lot of money, like, family was important. And you could get, that from family, or most of us could. And we were otherwise happier. It wasn't until, once again, like we started pushing that due on people is when they seem to suffer. And a lot of people don't see that.
yeah,
And I think it's finally being seen now
Yes.
and is being dealt with far better than in years before prior.
Yeah.
Like, for the longest time, it would have been just keep doing, and that would have been it.
Yeah.
And many people would have died because they couldn't take it. Like, and that's, people don't realize how dangerous burnout can be. Like, because they can, one change of somebody slips their mind of a practice to do something for a patient or something, and now they've lost their license, like they've lost their way of living, which causes more depression. Like, and once again, it snowballs. And we have finally started to try to work on this and make it easier for everybody, and that's a great
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, we are running out of time. I
Oh,
wish
it's
we could talk
okay.
far
I
longer.
know.
Oh, like
So,
maybe you can be back on the show another time so we can
yes.
finish our conversation. But thank you for being on the show. It was a lovely talk. I had fun. I learned a lot. Um, I might see if I can get in touch with you later about some ideas I have, and maybe I can run them by a doctor's perspective. So I would love to be able to do that. Um, Thank you for being on the show. How can my listeners get in touch with you and websites and all that stuff? How do we get in touch with you?
Yes, absolutely. So, you can find me through my website. I have my medical practice here in Tucson. It's thrivelifecenter.com. Or if you are anywhere in the globe and wanting to have a women's health expert, it's thrive with drpatricia.com. I'm also on Instagram. It's Thrive Life Center PLLC. And I have a free Facebook group, The Thriving Woman. So many ways to find me. And I would love to see you in my community.
Awesome. Yes. I'm probably going to send my mom to you. I think she could talk. You need to talk to my mom.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
she is very driven.
Oh,
I love my
well, that's
mom.
good.
She's very driven though. And she's very much the do persona.
Yes.
And I'm like, Mom, you have to calm down. Mom, you have to calm down. But then I see I'm so much like her. It's ridiculous because then she'll be
Mhm.
telling me on the days where I'm like this, she's like, just calm down, just calm down. So it's a
You're
good
mirroring
work
each
ethic.
other.
Yeah, she's part of my circle now, and it's just been fun. I think you would have a wonderful talk with her, so I'm gonna give her
Yes,
your
yes. Send
information.
her my way. I do free workshops in my Facebook group.
Okay.
So she might enjoy that. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for being on the show once again. And you take it easy. You have a great rest of the day. And hopefully I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Okay.
Bye.
See ya.
So that concludes our show for today. Please take a moment to check out the links of our guests. They'll be in the description below and on the screen as well throughout the interview, like you saw. Yeah. Please also check out my links and we'll talk to you soon. You guys have a great day. Thank you for today. Thank you for yesterday. And thank you for tomorrow. Always remember to question your reality. And with every end, there is a beginning. Take care.